Good morning. Welcome to the Crossroads Career Network webinar this morning. Glad you are able to make it. My name is 𝙎𝙤𝙗. I lead Minnesota Crossroads Career Network, and I will be telling you a lot more about all that's available. So after our main presentation today with Jeff Meacham, hang on because I've got more to share with you and tell you how you can get plugged into Crossroads so that you can take advantage of everything we have to offer. Really glad you're here. And as we go through our speakers this morning, I know you're going to get a lot out of it. I hope it's worthwhile for you in terms of your job search and being able to be more effective and land in your new job faster. Minnesota Crossroads Career Network, we exist in order to help you land a job faster and give you resources and help and networking and training and moral and spiritual support in order to make the process as painless as possible. But it never is quite painless, is it? I mean, the fact that you're having to look in the first place is not the choice most of us have made, but hopefully we can help along the way. I hope you've been taking advantage of other things we have with Crossroads. And as I said, I'll describe what all those are, but make sure you plug in multiple ways. The support really can make a difference. And, you know, part of our hope with Crossroads is that along with helping people succeed in their job search, we also talk about bigger issues and point people to the hope and encouragement of Jesus Christ. It should be no surprise that the Bible has a great deal of wisdom for life. And one thing I see very often is that people try to go through life on their own, especially when they may be going through a difficult time like a job search. God never intended life to be done by ourselves. We're meant to be in community and live with and serve and grow with each other. We're meant to support each other and love each other and encourage each other. In the last couple of years in particular, people have become very isolated and have lost connection with other people in many cases. Scripture says, do not neglect to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another. You know, in life, a church can be a great source of wisdom and support and hope. And in a job search, seeking help from others and building community with groups like this can be a great resource to find your next position. Don't do it alone. You know, plugging into groups like this can help, but not just by watching webinars like this morning, but get active in the networking groups, the classes, and the other interactive resources we have so that you can interact with people. You know, one of the things that I think people forget sometimes is that our communication skills and our interpersonal skills are a muscle, and you use it or you lose it. And when you're doing nothing but staring at a computer screen for days or weeks at a time, and then you have a networking meeting or a job interview come up, you're not at your best. So stay engaged and interactive with other people as much as possible. It really makes a big difference all the way around, both for your personal well-being and mental health, as well as for how you come across to others. Get plugged in for the hope and encouragement and help we all need. Let me open us up in a word of prayer, and then I'm going to introduce Brian Bach for our speaker, and then Jeff Meacham after that. And I know this morning will be productive for you. Lord, I'm just grateful for the chance that we have to come together like this, even if it's just virtually right now. I am so looking forward to the day we can meet in person again and shake hands and see people face to face. Lord, we hope that will be here soon. Thank you for this time. We pray that this morning is used for your purposes, that people hear what they need to hear and that they can take away something that makes a difference in their job search and in their life. Thank you, Lord, for all these things. In Jesus' name, amen. And with that, I'm really glad to introduce Brian Bach. Full disclosure, Brian is my business partner in our firm, Hanson Bach, and he is also somebody that he and I have lengthy conversations about faith and how we apply it in our business and in our work. And I'm glad to have him often be able to share some of those thoughts and his ideas in terms of how you may be thinking about your job search and your career. So with that, I'll leave it to Brian. Thanks.
Thanks, Harry. As Harry said, he and I are business partners, and like Harry, I'm virtually a lifelong executive recruiter. I've been doing it for over 25 years. So it is out of sort of that well of experience that I will share with you today what I have found with a lot of unemployed well, I would say with all unemployed candidates, the dispositions that they possess that makes their navigating for another job very difficult. So what I want to do is provide some practical solutions for you to avoid falling into those pitfalls. And I can promise you that in all my years of recruiting, I have never held any prejudice against an unemployed candidate. The struggles unemployed candidates have are not because they're unemployed. It's because of what they think is going on because they're unemployed. So we have to separate those two things. You're not being prejudiced against. Of course, when you're unemployed, we're going to ask questions about why that is, but that does not mean we have a judgment as to why we think you're unemployed. Nope, we just try to explore that. So bottom line is don't worry about being unemployed, and let's find solutions that can help us get out of that mindset of I'm being prejudiced against because of that fact. So first of all, that sense that most unemployed candidates come to me with is this sense of profound anxiety. And I get it, we all have anxiety, but I want everyone to understand what anxiety is. Anxiety is a disordered turning in on yourself. It's so concerned about yourself. I need money, I need to support my family, I need, and it really is an unhealthy folding in on yourself. We all do it, so I don't want you to feel like you're unusual when that happens. It happens probably daily to all of us, where we all focus overly on ourselves versus others. So that anxiety is a derailer when you're in an interview process. So what are practical anecdotes to that? And I would say this is where faith comes into play, and how important it is to bring in our worldview, a Christian faith to the forefront here. And so to describe where I'm going with that and to give practical application, I want to talk about the three vital theological virtues that exist. And it's faith, love, and hope, or faith, hope, and love. And if we start with love and understanding what love is, I want to define terms clearly because it matters. We all see, Christians, I would say, have a very peculiar definition of the term love, which is the definition being willing the good of the other. And so that on itself probably makes sense. We will others good. That's love, yes. But it has this really strange icon in Christianity. And hopefully you can see this because I know this gets wonky. But that's love in Christianity. Think about how odd that is. A man hanging on a tree. But we have to understand what's going on there. That man did that not for his sake. He had the ability to not do that if he wanted to not do that. But he chose to do it for our sake. And there's a lot of reasons that he did that for our sake, but that exemplifies love. It focuses on the other. So that anxiety that turns in on ourselves, if we reflect on really what love is in the world, it is a focus on other. It gets us outside of ourselves. And once we're outside of ourselves and focused on others, then we can perform better better in an interview process because we're focused on them. And we don't have that feeling like, oh my gosh, they're just going to tell me anything because they're so desperate for a job, which again is anxiety and focused on you. So love, that's the first one. If we go to faith, this definition gets a little bit nuanced. And in I would say in Christian circles, faith is an assent of the mind to the things revealed. Now, when you hear that, it sounds very technical, which it is, but the things revealed in the world are not all tangible, like this phone or this computer or desk that I'm sitting at. Some things are not tangible. For example, love. The whole world sees love as this powerful force, but yet you can't see it, you can't grab it, you can't touch it, but we all know it's there. Our minds assent to something bigger, and that's faith. Now, how does that apply to you personally? Assent of the mind to things revealed. This is where I'm sure you'll hear a little bit from Jeff. It's sort of this idea of how do we come to know ourselves? We were given things by God, endowed with talents and gifts. And do we know those well? And can we articulate those to the world? Have you sat down and let your mind ascend to the truths of the gifts that you've received from God. That's faith. And then trust that that will be needed in the world, because God makes us all to be needed in the world. That's our contribution to the world. Again, other focused, are letting our minds ascend to what we can do to contribute to that world. That's what a job does and what work does for us as human beings. So that's faith. And then the final, and I would say maybe the most powerful virtue for our sake is hope. And it's because of what hope produces. I'm going to give you a definition again, defining the terms. Hope is the confident desire of obtaining a future good that is difficult to obtain. So it implies this seeking, this pursuing, and you're all in this world, seeking, pursuing work. And it's a desire that you have. And I think the confidence that you bring into that this desire will be fulfilled. And it produces action. Hope produces action. The best example I can give of this is in the movie 𝙎𝙤𝙘 Redemption. 𝙎𝙤𝙘 Redemption is a movie profoundly wrapped around the virtue of hope. Two characters, Ellis Redding and Andy Dufresne. Andy Dufresne went into 𝙎𝙤𝙘 Redemption, this gray, blah, cold prison, as an innocent man. And he never lost hope. And when he spoke about hope to Red tried to tell him there is no place for hope in here. So when I say hope produces action, what did that hope do for Andy? It had him pick at the wall. For 20 years, roughly 20 years, he picked at a wall because he had this confident desire of obtaining freedom. And he knew, if I just did this every day. Did that action present risk to him? Sure. Will your actions of going out into the world to share the fact that you're unemployed, to network, to do things that might not be comfortable for you, does that produce risk? Personally, yeah, it absolutely does. Someone might not see value in you, and that's personally a risk. You have to take that risk, but you're willing to do it. You have this confident desire. And Andy displays that beautifully in that movie. He stayed at it. He never stopped picking at the wall. And what resulted was redemption. He was freed. And so I think you're all in that same boat that Andy Dufresne was in. That boat that feels like 𝙎𝙤𝙘 Prison, gray, bland, cold, empty. Well, don't allow yourself to stay there. Get out and network. Pick at that wall every day. And what will be produced from that will be a fulfillment of this confident desire that you have, this hope that you have. There will be a job there. There always is a job there. So with that, I will turn it back to Harry and Jeff, and I wish you all the very best and hope that the process for your job search goes well down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that. Faith, hope, and love, really, or I'm sorry, that's not the three he said, was it? It was love, hope, and now I blew it. But in any case, thanks. Appreciate the messaging. I am really glad to also introduce Jeff Meacham this morning. And that's, I know who y'all came here to hear today, this morning. Jeff and I have known each other for well over 20 years, I think. Yeah. Amazing how time flies. It's pretty amazing, especially when you consider that we're both around 25, 26 years old. So that's, we've known each other very young. In any case, Jeff has been a tremendous networker. In fact, I don't know, probably 3-4 years ago now, Jeff was at one of our events helping with some stuff, and Marsha Bollinger, one of the authors of the 20-minute networking meeting, was speaking that morning. And she noticed Jeff there, and she was telling the group that she considers Jeff to be one of the best networkers in the Twin Cities area. That's pretty high praise from somebody that actually wrote a book on networking. And I have to agree. Jeff has it has benefited him in his career, in his personal life, in the relationships he builds with people, and he's going to be able to describe that to you now. Jeff currently has an organization called Forward by Choice, where he does leadership training and development, and he works with a number of companies around the Twin Cities area, and has, I can tell you from personal testimony and things I've seen with people, that he makes a real difference in people's lives. And so I am just real appreciative of everything that Jeff does, and appreciative that he's here this morning. With that, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Harry. Wow. So I get to follow that introduction, and I get to follow Brian's beautiful treatment on faith, hope, and love. So the bar is high, but I'll try to do my best. And yeah, lots and lots and lots of networking over the last, I'll say 20 years or so. Did a career shift about 20 years ago. And this morning, I decided to take a little bit of a different approach. And what you're going to see this morning is something that I'm pretty sure you haven't seen before, partly because I created it yesterday, and partly because I wanted to take a different approach and bring a different perspective to the networking conversations. I have been a huge Crossroads fan for a long, long time. And the Crossroads approach, the Crossroads materials, and the Crossroads presentations on networking are phenomenal. So how can I add to that? And what I landed on, and maybe this was the Holy Spirit, I don't know, a little bit of inspiration. I thought to myself, how can I tap into what I told my grandson this last summer. He said, so Joe is 15, and we're having lunch one Saturday, and he said, so Grandpa, what do you do? And how do you answer that question to a 15-year-old? And what I said to Joe was, Joe, we help people have better conversations. And yeah, leader development, executive coaching, influence, day after day after day is about having better conversations. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to actually bring together something that I do every day, which is helping people have better conversations. And part of it is because of what I've seen in the networking process over the last 20 years. And the truth is, some people really need help, practical help on how to network well and how to have good conversations. So I'm going to show you just a little bit of an agenda here. So networking perspectives, this is the third in a series, a little bit of a different approach. And what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about a tools-based approach. Brian talked about having, here's 3 things. Here's something practical. Here's something to take with you, faith, hope, and love. What we do at Giant Worldwide, so Giant Worldwide is it's a network of about 700 coaches and guides in 120 countries who help people have better conversations. Forward by Choice, my company, is a Giant partner, and we have tools which equip companies for influence, employee engagement, retention, and just helping people have better conversations. So what you're going to see today, tools for planning, tools for your mindset, tools for the approach, and tools for execution. So the rubber is going to hit the road in the execution phase. That's what a lot of people focus on, is how to have that networking meeting. But I am going to spend some time equipping you in getting ready so that you show up well. And we might even touch on some things that Harry and Brian mentioned. So what you see here is just the beginning of our approach, Giant's approach to influence, which is providing practical tools. So what you're going to see today, I had to take, we have so many tools for having better conversations, and I cut it down. I'm always mindful of time. So I got it down to, I think, 12 tools. And I thought, okay, maybe one of you finds one or two tools that really resonate with you. They're going to be really helpful in your networking. So it's my hope that you'll take notes, that one of these speaks to you and helps you on your networking journey. So the first section we're going to talk about is the planning section. When I do career coaching and when I do career transition coaching, I have a core process, and it goes like this: know who you are, know what you want, move forward by choice. And a lot of people start networking before they're ready. And because they're told, you got to go network, you got to go meet with people. And people go out and start having conversations, but they don't have effective conversations because they're not ready. And so what I do in my coaching is I say, we're going to stay with know who you are and know what you want. And when you're ready and you know who you are and you know what you want, then we'll move out. So this first tool is a practical tool for in the planning process. And it's about dealing with some of the stuff that that Brian talked about, which is, dealing with difficulty. We're going through something right now. We're going through transition. Maybe we're laid off. Maybe we were, underperforming. Maybe we were, for some reason, we find ourselves in transition. Maybe it's just, I wasn't happy what I was doing. So this first tool is a tool for getting at learning opportunities and dealing with difficulty. This is a coaching tool, and it's called the core process. What you see here is a multi-step approach to processing learning opportunities. There may be a learning opportunity in your career. Why didn't it go well? Why did I not perform at the level I wanted to perform at? Or why did I get laid off? So we process these things in a way of saying, first of all, know yourself, know what's going on, and then you can lead yourself. And the core process stands for call it, own it, respond, and execute. The call it sometimes is putting a name on something. And imagine you're in transition and you are going to be telling your story, and your call it may be, you know what? I was in a firm where we didn't share values. In other words, maybe leadership was doing some things that made you uncomfortable. Or maybe your call it is, I was in the wrong seat. I'm good at what I do, but I was in the wrong seat, couldn't find my place in this organization. Maybe your call it is, I was underperforming. And I'll tell you guys, in all honesty, when I left the corporate world in 2016, at that time, I was underperforming because I wasn't willing to do what it took to be successful in the role I was in. That's a whole different, it's a whole different story, but that's my call it. Yeah, I chose to leave, but one of the reasons I chose to leave is that I was underperforming. So the call it is putting a name on it. The own it is, why is that? And what's my share in it? And so you can explain to somebody, here's my role in, leaving, my role in being in transition, my role in, not being successful at that firm. Or maybe your role is, you know what? I was knocking it out of the park. I was doing great. I showed up well every day. Truth is, the company was underperforming. Company had to make some cuts, but you call it and you own it with confidence. The second half of the core process is respond and execute. And basically the response is, okay, what are you going to do about it? How do you respond to the things that come your way? How do you respond to learning opportunities? And, if some of that looking in the mirror is on you, how will you respond? They say life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond. So choose your response. The execute is basically accountability. Crossroads does a fantastic job with small groups of helping you be accountable in your job search. On a daily basis, we work with leaders on holding each other accountable. And the execute phase is to say, I've thought about my options. I've thought about the way forward. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's how I want to be held accountable to that. and here's when I'm going to do that. So I'm going to develop a list of the target companies that I'm going to network with, and I'm going to have that to my accountability partner by, a week from Friday. So the execute is being held accountable within a time frame. So I hope you see here opportunity to process any kind of learning is call it, own it, respond, and execute. And Harry, please let me know if people pop in with questions. So a practical tool for the planning phase. The next tool, still in the planning phase, is about being proactive. So this is also a mindset, but it's an opportunity to take an active role and to be thinking about who to network with, being consistent in how you show up, and having true impact. So the tool that we teach for being consistent and impactful is called the 5 circles of influence. What you see here are concentric circles with self at the center. And we talk about having Christ as the center, of course, in our lives. I tell my clients, this is one area of your life where you get to be self-centered. And little tongue in cheek, but the idea here is if you are healthy and communicating well, that has a ripple effect everywhere you go. First on family, then on team, organization, community. So consistency, think of this in terms of integrity, is how are you showing up? What is your mindset? What is your behavior? What is your communication? And if you are in a healthy place and you are secure and confident, consistent in your communications, that will have an impact all around you. On the other hand, if you're not in a good place, if you're unhealthy for any reason, Brian talked about maybe being, self-imploding, if you will, or we're worried or we're heart sick or whatever the case may be. If we're not in a healthy place, that is going to have a ripple effect on the people around you. People that you network with are going to feel it. People that you at home are going to feel it. And that potentially has a negative impact. So when we teach the 5 circles of influence, we say, get healthy first. That healthy behavior is going to have an impact. Well, how do we do that? We do that by being intentional versus accidental. What the heck does that mean? Accidental means stuff comes your way. A job opening comes your way, a networking opportunity comes your way, you say yes to whatever comes your way, and you respond in the moment to that. Or in your behaviors, you keep making some of the same mistakes over and over again because you revert to your tendencies. That's being accidental. Being intentional, on the other hand, is about consciously choosing your approach, consciously choosing your way forward, consciously choosing your response. Here's what I choose to do. I choose to target the following industries, the following companies. I choose to target the following kinds of people. And I don't say yes to everything comes my way. John Maxwell, great faith-filled teacher, talks about intentionality being choice. So our encouragement in the networking phase is don't react to everything that comes your way. Don't say yes to everything. Be intentional and choose how you will respond in your network, who you're going to call on, why you're calling on them, and then with intentionality, move into your circles of influence. Very important concept. Absolutely one of my favorite tools. I probably look at my 5 circles of influence every week, and be thinking about what are those circles for you. Family, team, organization, community. Well, if you don't have a team right now, maybe it's something different. Maybe it's the people at church. Maybe it's people in your industry associations, people that you've networked with in the past, people you've served in the past. So you can relabel these circles if you'd like, but be thinking about how you are intentionally moving out into those circles and doing it with intentionality and not by being accidental. So that's a couple tools on the planning phase. I want to talk about mindset. Every time I have, well, not every time, the last few times I've spoken at Crossroads, I'm very passionate about the mindset around networking. And it is your attitude. It's about, yes, it is about embracing the journey. It's about having the right mindset moving into networking. And one of the first things that I want to talk about is overcoming fear. So Brian did a great job of talking about faith, hope, and love, about not imploding on yourself. It is real. I understand that. And there are fears that we have about how we're going to show up, who do we network with, who should we ask, who can we ask. And the tool that we use to teach overcoming fear is a tool called Who Says You Can't? And the idea here is really expressed best by one of my partners. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to actually, I have a link in the PowerPoint, but I'm not sure that it's going to work perfectly. So let me click that, and I'm going to switch screens and check out the tool Who Says You Can't.
Hey friends, today I get to talk to you about a tool, Who Says You Can't? The idea of inhibition and prohibition. Years ago, as we were developing these tools, we kept finding that people would always say this. They go, yeah, they won't let us do it. They said we couldn't. And we're like, well, who's they? There's always a they, right? And we started to realize that people always feel prohibited when they're actually maybe inhibited. And we created this tool. Who says we can't? So who says we can't change this process? Who says we can't grow in this way? Who says we can't whatever? What we figured out was prohibition is when someone tells you you can't. There are government restrictions. I can't climb this certain fence because I'll get electrocuted. Well, that's a good thing. That's a prohibition. That's an enforced restriction, because if I do it, I'll cause damage to myself or someone else. Very, very different, though, than an inhibition. An inhibition is a limiting belief. It's when you tell yourself you can't, and that's usually based on fear. So if you want to understand if it's an inhibition or a prohibition, then you have to simply ask, is it truly a restriction? Is there a reason that we can't do it? We can't break the law because of X, Y, Z. We can't drive too fast. We can't, I don't even know if speed limit is an inhibition or a prohibition, but you get the point. There are certain things we can't do. And once we eliminate those, then we look at the things in front of us. And for a number of people we've led, they've actually found that the inhibition, who says we can't, was themselves. It's ourselves. We have limiting beliefs. I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z. I don't know if they'll let me. So therefore, it's easier to pass the buck and blame and say, yeah, they won't let us. Yeah, we tried that last year. They wouldn't. But the they is not really a they. It's not really a thing. And so for you to understand who says we can't, you have to look inside and go, is this an inhibition or a prohibition? And once you realize that inhibition is really a fear, it's a self-preservation, it's what you're afraid of losing, it's what you're trying to prove or hide. Once you figure out that you're actually the one in charge of your own inhibitions, then you can break down those walls, you can lower them, and then we can ask the question, who says we can't? It's not me. I think we can. And then you actually do the thing that needs to get done. That's how you use the tool. You think about the idea of inhibition or prohibition in anyone that you're leading or any project that you're working on, and you remove any barriers. Now, there's other tools that you can use to mash up and talk about this, but it's really, really important for you to understand the difference of inhibition and prohibition. So good luck with it. Have a try, have a work with it, and we'll see you on the other side.
So I would ask you in the career transition process, be thinking and ask, maybe ask the Lord to open your eyes. What are the things that are limiting me? And because it could be, oh gosh, I'm 61. They would never hire a 61-year-old. Or gosh, I got laid off. They're never going to hire somebody who's, underperformed. Whatever you're telling yourself, or gosh, I couldn't call on and have a networking meeting with the CEO of Best Buy. Well, yeah. So Brian Bach reaches out to the CEO of Best Buy, forms a friendship, and that friendship and that partnership has paid tons of fruit for people in my life and in my circles by watching Brian say, who says we can't? Yeah, I'm going to reach out to the CEO of Best Buy and do a little networking. Back to the presentation here. Next tool, I call it Peace in Transition. Again, this is a mindset tool. What we do with the people we're coaching is we use something called the Peace Index. And the Peace Index is a way of checking in with each other as to state of mind. And someone's Peace Index for us is comprised of these 5 things. And if you think about being in transition, each of these 5 things potentially factors into that. Was I living my purpose? Am I living my purpose? Do I know my purpose? If you don't know your purpose, it's going to be pretty hard to articulate what your ideal job looks like. Provision, needless to say, critical in transition, but someone who has 18 months of severance is going to be in a different place and more at peace than somebody who's wondering about paying the bills or paying the mortgage. So we get that. We want to understand, where are you at in terms of, your state of mind around all things environmental, which is place, around provision, being personally healthy, and then the relationships in your life. And that's the people side. If you have relationships that are currently wonky, that's going to have an impact on your state of mind in search. So we want to move intentionally toward healthier relationships, having people around you to support you, working out, being healthy, staying physically healthy, physically active. You're going to show up better. You're going to be more at peace. And then in terms of provision, my advice this morning, honestly, trust in him. Trust in him. He will provide. I know it sounds trite, but do you believe it? Do you believe it? He says, test me. So we leave the provision up to him. We do everything else right, and the provision's going to come. So the way we teach this is put a number on it, put a percentage on it. Hey, my purpose is at a 90. My provision is at a 60. My place is at a 70. My personal health is at a 90. Put numbers on it, and then track it over time and be able to articulate to the people around you, here's what I'm doing to raise my personal health from a 60 to a 70. Here's what I'm doing to raise my provision piece from a 70 to a 100 by giving it to the Lord. Again, mindset, tools for articulating your strengths. Absolutely love this tool. I use this concept in my career coaching, in my transition coaching, in my executive coaching, in developing people. And the idea here behind the 70-30 principle is people are going to do a better job in work and in life if they're doing things that are energizing, that come naturally or are second nature, where they're just good at it. Where the sweet spot is something that you have experienced, you know how to do it, you're good at it, you're naturally good at it, and you're passionate about it. That's the sweet spot. Sweet spot for the 70-30 principle is understand your strengths, understand what is it about your roles in the past. Where have you just knocked it out of the park? You were really good, you loved it, you were passionate. When were you at your very best? When you were at your very best, my guess is you were in your 70. If you were in your 30, you were being asked to do things that, were learned behavior. You studied it, you took training on it, you worked on it. Didn't necessarily come naturally to you. And for some reason you were drained at the end of the time or at the end of the day when you were in your 30. So if from a networking perspective, Brian talked about faith, hope, and love. And when I network with you, I'm going to ask you, what is it that you love to do? What is it that you would do if money were no object? Why is that? What is it that brings you life, brings you energy? And when you figure out what it is that you just love, what you would pursue if money were no object, or if you knew you couldn't fail, then we're going to start tapping into your know what you want, which is the ideal role. The ideal role, for me, so I put myself in transition 6 years ago, 2016, and I said, I have to be in a place where I can speak life and encouragement into people. Okay, that's what I love to do. I love to speak life and encouragement into people. Young man across the table from me said, hey, and I was networking at the time. We were at a Panera, and Tyler said to me, have you ever heard of Giant Worldwide? So because I was networking, because I was out and about doing my thing with intentionality, because I knew what I wanted, because I knew what I loved, and I was ready, scripture says, always be prepared to give an answer for the hope that lies within you. I was ready at the moment to say, here's what I love to do. Here's what I want to do. Tyler says, have you ever heard of Giant? And boom, off we go. All right, we're going to move to we're getting closer now to the networking meetings themselves. And this is a tool these are tools for your approach, getting ready and being ready to network every day. First things first, can't overemphasize the importance of putting first things first. And in our world, we say that is relationship before opportunity. Okay, the tool is called Relational Impact. The idea is relationship before opportunity. And ladies and gentlemen, I have seen way too many networking meetings where somebody is focused on just getting 3 names or getting 3 leads or getting through it, and not focused on building a relationship with the person on the other side of them. I'm here to tell you, please focus on the relationship between the 2 people networking first. And this, you guys, is a lifelong approach. It is a lifelong approach to networking after you've landed, okay? Because you will land. After you've landed, you stay with this approach, and maybe you are in a role where you have internal teammates that you need to influence. Same thing. You are building relationship with people inside your company. You're building relationships with vendors, customers, suppliers. Start with the relationship itself. Listen to them, be for them. If you see that lever at the top, the idea is be for them first, and dig in, ask a bunch of questions. How are they doing? How are they measured? What is their role? Why do they get up in the morning? What do they love about what they do? What are they struggling with? What are their challenges? How can you support them? What do they need? Okay. And then you're going to hear back from them, their felt need. And then, believe it or not, you might have a solution for them. You might say, oh my gosh, hey, I do have an idea if you're open to it. I went through this once. Here's a name of somebody who's gone through this. Or, I hear you. What if we tried this? What if we did this? And if you can meet somebody where they're at and provide an idea, a name, a potential solution, something, some experience that you have, you serve them first. Okay. Servant leadership, servant networking, serve them first. Then you can get to the opportunity that you're seeking. Somebody's going to be much more inclined to assist you when they see your heart and they see that you are for them. So don't start with the opportunity for yourself. Start with the relationship with them. Be for them. Relationship before opportunity. Build the relationship first. Responding to the things that come your way, responding to questions while you're networking, responding to job openings, responding to networking opportunities, responding to criticism, responding to feedback, responding to being turned down, responding to coming up number 2 in the interview process. What do we do with that? Well, our tool for being responsive rather than reactive or resistant is called the responsive person. The idea here is when stuff happens, when we receive critical feedback, we didn't get the job, we came in number 2, somebody, doesn't like our resume, somebody's digging into questions. If we're not careful and we're accidental, we can be insecure, or we can be prideful and say, they don't know what they're talking about. The reason I left that company is because they suck. Well, that's being reactive and insecure. It is much more healthy. It is much more healthy to be secure, confident, and humble. And I could do 2 hours just on this slide alone. What does it mean to be secure, confident, and humble? And I'll try to boil it down for you. Secure is first who you are, your identity. And that starts with being a created, sacred human being who has worth, who has values, who is loved unconditionally by a God who will never leave you. If you can stay in that, stay secure in your identity as a child of God, they can't take anything from you, right? Because you've got that. Be secure in who you are. Confident is confident in your abilities. Here's what I'm good at. Here's what I love to do. I know I'm going to land, and I move forward with confidence. And after, I was going to say hundreds, 20 years later, it's probably thousands of networking meetings. I can feel it when somebody's confident, and I can feel it when somebody's not confident. And that's why I work so hard on know yourself, know who you are and know what you want. So I want people to step out in confidence. When you go to that coffee or you go to that networking meeting, I want you to step out in confidence, confident in your abilities, and confident in the talent and gifts that God has given you. Third is humble. How does humble have to do with being responsive? Well, think about it. When somebody offers you some critique, some feedback, or you came in number 2, et cetera, humility says, all right, you know what? Maybe I need to grow. Maybe I need to get better. Maybe I need to adjust my approach. And so when someone offers critique, the first words out of your mouth need to be, thank you. Thank you. Hey, you didn't get the job. Here's the deal. First words out of your mouth should be, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate you getting back to me. We can certainly ask questions about, is there anything you can share with me? Any advice you have for me? What part of my background really, resonated with you that I should carry forward? Is there anything that I maybe should emphasize less? Being humble enough to grow in your approach. All right, now we're going to dig into some tools for the networking meetings themselves. I'm going to try to fly through these. I'm watching my time. Tools for having better conversations. So I hope over the course of the last 6, 7 tools, you see there are tools for being ready, calling on the right people at the right time with the right mindset, the right attitude, the right preparation. Well, success is where opportunity meets preparation. So if we've prepared well, now we're going to give you some tools for the networking meeting itself. First one, this is a tool for chemistry and connection. Absolutely one of my favorite tools. This is one of the most fun tools that we teach at Giant. It is incredibly important to it's important to every leader I work with. It's important to every person who's trying to build relationship. And it is about operating at the right speed and being in the right gear at the right time. And this is called the 5 gears. The 5 gears is a metaphor, stick shift metaphor, to teach people that if you are operating in the wrong gear at the wrong time, things are not going to go well. So here's how it works. 5th gear is focus mode. It's overdrive. We are by ourselves, head down, working on something and time flies, we're very focused. It's an important gear. And sometimes we need to say, hey, I'm going to put aside distractions. I'm going to close email. I'm going to set everything else aside, and I'm putting my head down, and I am going to finish the, Jeff's attributes of what's next exercise, because I want to get this done. So fifth gear, overdrive, head down, getting stuff done. Very important. Can be unhealthy if we're spending all of our time in fifth gear, but it's an important gear. Fourth gear is task mode. It's where we have multiple things going. There's maybe multiple people involved. We've got our phone, we've got our email, we are in a meeting, we're getting stuff done in a group. It's where most of us spend a lot of our time in fourth gear. Truth is, it's highly inefficient. It leads to distraction, and it leads to a lack of productivity. So we want to be careful to recognize when we're in fourth gear, when we're in multitask mode, and make sure that we are spending the right amount of time in task mode and be able to get at the other gears. Third gear is social mode. It's where we are not talking about the work. Okay. This is sitting down in a networking meeting or coffee and saying, how was your weekend? How's the family? What kinds of things do you do for fun? It is the non-work related chemistry building. It's just being present with somebody. Hey, I see you've got a really cool planner that you brought to the networking meeting. Tell me about that. What's that all about? Hey, nice tie. Do you wear Jerry Garcia ties all the time? What's that all about? Staying in social mode builds chemistry, okay? This is where we are keeping it light, keeping it easy, and we're not pressing into the work, not pressing into the task at hand. And I'm going to come back to third gear. Second gear is a intentional downshift, slower, and it's going deeper to really, truly connect with somebody. So imagine going into a networking meeting and you're in that first phase and just getting to know them a bit. And then something happens in your spirit where you feel like there's something going on in their world, something going on in their life. And you close your notebook or you turn your phone upside down and you lean forward and you say, hey, what's going on? How are you doing? And it just feels different. And this is where we make a true human connection. We can go to second gear in networking meetings. We can go to second gear in the office. We can go to second gear at home. The idea is it's not about the work. It's not about the task. It's about looking somebody in the eye and saying, how are you? And I'm going to give you one of my favorite stories. Brian knows this one. The priest, one of the legendary priests who runs our silent retreats, says, how are you can be a sacred question if you're really interested in hearing the answer. How are you can be a sacred question if you're really interested in hearing the answer. What does that mean? Well, some of us, we say, how are you? We're not thinking about it. We're not even listening to the response, or we're just moving past it to the next thing. So slow down and connect. Recharge mode is refresh. We've got to get to first gear once in a while. Sometimes that's prayer, meditation. For some, it might be jogging. For some extroverts, it might be going out for happy hour. How do we recharge? We need to recharge. All of us need to recharge, especially in a COVID world. How do we do that? Reverse mode, responsive gear, is sometimes recognizing we made a mistake. We got to go back. We got to say, I'm sorry. I didn't show up well. I'm sorry. We had a networking meeting and I realized I did all the talking, and I'm sorry about that. So fantastic metaphor for recognizing what gear am I in? What gear do I need to be in when I'm networking? Okay, so maybe we're doing some fifth to get ready. We're doing some fourth when we're starting to go through our target lists with people, explaining, the kinds of roles we're looking for. We start in third, start in third, start in third. And again, lifelong tool. Start your meetings in third gear, start your relationships in third gear, then you shift gears as necessary. Why are we here? Clarifying the purpose of meetings, clarifying the purpose of communications. We have a tool called the communication code. And the idea is we tend to miss each other in conversation if we don't realize the kind of conversation we're having. Not going to spend a ton of time on this one because, sometimes the networking meeting is basically about just clarification. Hey, I want you to understand what I'm looking for. I want you to understand who I'm targeting. I want you to understand my background. That's a clarify conversation, okay? A critique conversation is different. It might be, hey, I want to meet with somebody and I want to have a meeting about your review of my resume, your review of my LinkedIn profile. That is a different conversation than a clarify, okay? A collaborate conversation might be working together on an approach, on targets, on companies, on looking at their LinkedIn meetings. But it's really important to understand what kind of conversation are we having and to clarify it up front. My purpose for today is I'd like to just leave here very clear on what you do for a living, why you enjoy what you do. And then I want to help get clarity around what I'm looking for. So we leave the meeting having had a great clarify conversation. We weren't working on other matters, but we both leave the meeting clear. So interesting tool, tee up your conversations properly. If we don't tee up conversations properly, somebody wanted to celebrate and you wanted to critique, it doesn't go well. The probe. This is probably the tool, if I'm being honest, right? Scripture says sober judgment. This is probably, employing a tool like this is probably the one that has set me apart. When Marcia says I'm a great networker and Harry says I'm a great networker, this is probably the one that sets me apart. And it's the idea of push-pull behaviors. When you are in conversation, it should be a two-way conversation. And sometimes in conversation, we do need to push. We need to tell people our opinions about the workplace, the workforce, our career. We need to let them know what we're good at. We need to let them know what we're passionate about. We need to let them know what we want to do. So in a leadership perspective, sometimes we need to push, we need to tell, we need to speak up. If you don't speak up, if you don't push ever, nobody knows who you are. They don't know what you're good at. They don't know what you want. They don't know your opinions. And guess what? Your influence goes down. So sometimes we need to push, we need to tell. Other times we need to ask, we need to pull from the other person. What are they passionate about? What do they care about? What are their interests? So it's that relationship before opportunity piece. And this is where I probably made my mark, is I made a conscious decision about 9 years ago now. Wow, 9 years ago, to be an others first networker. I've lost count of how many meetings I've had where we leave and the other person says, oh my gosh, I did all the talking. And I just smile because I know I choose to pull in my networking conversations. I'm going to actively listen. I'm going to clarify. I'm going to draw out from you, what you care about, what you're good at, what you want to do, et cetera. I'm going to potentially have some ideas for you, but I'm going to do a lot of the listening. It's really important for you to understand your personality, your style, your strengths, and your push-pull behaviors. Each of us tend one way or the other. And I will tell you, as an extrovert, my tendency is to push. Okay, God wired me to push. God wired me to tell. God wired me to tell stories. So it is a conscious, intentional decision to be a listener and to pull. You need to understand your tendencies. And my encouragement is watch your push-pull levers during conversation and make sure you are doing an adequate amount of pulling so that you can understand and build relationship with the person across from you. And goes for job interviews too, pull. One of my specialties is helping people ask really, really good interview questions and not the usual interview questions. Gonna have a little fun here. I titled this yesterday, Beware the Meme Monster, because I watched a fantastic video. The guy's last name is Regan. And if you YouTube Regan stand-up comedy on I Walked on the Moon, he talks about the meme monster. The meme monster is where the conversation is all about you. We have a tool for that, and it's called the boomerang effect. And the boomerang effect is a really, really interesting tool. It's an interesting concept because good-hearted people, great people, wonderful people can be seen as one-uppers or as self-centered, and they don't even realize it. They don't even mean it. Here's how it goes. The boomerang effect is somebody says something in conversation and you want to demonstrate with good intentions. You want to demonstrate connection. You want to demonstrate that you understand. And so you say, oh my gosh, yes, me too. I've been there. Here was my experience. And so that's great. It shows connection. It shows empathy. However, there are people who accidentally do this all the time, and it becomes about them. They're constantly demonstrating their connection to what you're talking about, their experience with what you're talking about. Could be a favorite restaurant. One of my favorite restaurants for networking is, love going to, I mentioned Panera earlier. I'm a shameless Panera fan. I love going to Panera, and somebody says, oh yeah, Panera, you know what? I actually was one of the first people to sign up for Panera. I was like, oh, okay. The boomerang effect is when you are coming across as interesting. We suggest be interested first. Make sure that it's about the other people, and watch your two-way back and forth on how you demonstrate connection and how you demonstrate empathy. Communicating ideas with the right expectations. It's going into a meeting and understanding that when we are talking about what's next, sometimes we're not clear on who will do what by when. So this tool is about navigating change, navigating next steps, navigating commitments. It's called Provisional Plan Promise. And it goes like this. When you are being provisional, you're ideating, you're brainstorming. Hey, what if I was to work in the healthcare industry? Hey, what if we were to, what if we were to change your resume to look like this? Ideating and brainstorming are different than taking action, which is plan and promise. Plan is to say, I am going to do this. We're going to invest time, interest, energy, resources. We are going to move forward, and you're going to start to see artifacts. That is different than being provisional. Provisional is ideating, brainstorming. What's the networking application? The networking application is, gosh, I could probably introduce you to, Medtronic. I've got a really good friend over there. That would work. Medtronic's a great company. It was an idea that person put forward around Medtronic and introducing you to Medtronic. You walk away. If you didn't understand they were being provisional, you're like, oh, I can't wait for that Medtronic invitation. Then you never hear anything. And then you're disappointed. And then you think that person's a flake. However, if somebody says, you know what, I plan to introduce you to Medtronic, and I'll do that in the next week or two. I will introduce you to Medtronic. I'll do that in the next week or two. That is more concrete, and it's something that you can have a reasonable expectation on. Promise, on the other hand, is something that you cannot break. It's something that you can guarantee. If you say to someone in networking, I promise you, I will get you an introduction to Medtronic, and you don't come through, you lose credibility, you lose trust. So we suggest at Giant, when you're using provisional plan promise, use promise carefully, use promise sparingly, so that you can always follow through on your promises. And if you catch someone using the language, using the promise word, hold them to that. So provisional plan promise for our clients works really well when both parties know the tool and know the language. I just suggest in your networking, clarify with people, hey, is that just an idea? Is that just a brainstorm? Are you planning to do that? I would love it if you teach them the tool, but in the absence of the tool, just clarify, is that an idea? Are you actually planning to do that? Do I have your commitment that you'll do that? If somebody says they'll promise something, might be a good way to dig in and say, wow, how can you guarantee that? And you might get some interesting answers. I'm going to stop there. It's we've got 7 or 8 minutes, and just take a breath. I have a few more if need be, but I think my next slides are kind of in the bonus round. But I wanted to stop and check in with, between Harry and Brian and the chat feature, whether any of this landed with you guys, and if anybody has questions.
There are no comments or questions so far, but I encourage you guys to please feel free to share.
Harry, I'll put the pressure on you. What was there one that jumped out at you?
Yeah, I really like the push-pull discussion you had and how important that is. I have a lot of networking meetings myself, and whether it's Zoom meetings or in coffee or phone calls, and so many of them are all about them telling me all about themselves, and they never ask a single question or poll. And it's just critical. It's about relationship building, not just dumping on somebody. And that results in relationship long-term. That great networking isn't a one-hit wonder. It's not just a one meeting and see what I can get and I'm out of here and that's it. That's just a starting point. And it's often that your best results come after that second or third conversation with them.
Oh, love that. You know what it reminds me of? Back when I was launching my sales career, we had a vice president who taught us the concept of peeling the onion. And the idea is that, people have layers to them. The people you are prospecting, right, have layers to them. The companies you're calling on or interviewing with have layers to them. The people you're interviewing, the people you're networking with have layers to them. So the idea behind peeling the onion is not asking a question, getting an answer, and moving on. The idea behind peeling the onion is going deeper. And I'm making this up on the spot. So we're in a networking meeting and we say to somebody, hey, what do you love about working here? And they say, gosh, I love the culture. The people are just great. And you say, oh, awesome. So they like the culture. So what kind of roles are open? And you miss the opportunity to say, really, that's awesome. What is it about the people? Well, the people are, some of the most caring, considerate, compassionate people that I've ever worked with. Really, what does that look like here? How do you show caring and compassion at your company? Well, one of the things we do is we have, VTO, volunteer time off. We get together, we dig in, and one of the favorite things that we get to do is blah, blah, blah. Why is that important? And all of a sudden you've asked 3, 4, 5 questions, and you've really started to get at the heart of the person, the heart of the company. So that active listening and drawing out can be accomplished more effectively by peeling the onion. The other thing I'll share with you, and you probably have been taught this, is, they talk about the best interview question ever. And forgive me, I don't remember the source or the author, but the best interview question ever is, that idea of tell us about, the accomplishment that you are most proud of. And the reason that's the best interview question ever is because if you have a great interviewer, they can peel the onion and just stay with that accomplishment, that project, that story, that role, and they will ask tons of questions just right there. Really, why was that such an important accomplishment? Why were you so proud of it? What was your role? Who did you work with? What were the pitfalls? How did you communicate? And by staying in one area with one interview question, you can really get at the heart of a person and their character, their competence, their communication, et cetera. So that's another example of peeling the onion. I'm going to look at the screen here.
Jeff, a couple of people asked if you can share the slides. I'll address that actually, because one is, I know that these slides are proprietary, but this video, the video of this webinar, will be posted on our YouTube channel before the end of the day today. And so you can review and see the slides there anytime. But I know that sending out the slide deck is probably not the right answer for you, and I can appreciate.
Well, and feel free to link in with me. So my LinkedIn handle, you've got my name. My LinkedIn handle is Giant Connector. Probably won't surprise some of you. And then forwardbychoice.com. I've got opportunities on forwardbychoice.com to connect, to grab coffee or have a Zoom meeting, et cetera. Happy to, if somebody wants to dig into one of these tools, happy to do that.
And someone else in the chat says, LinkedIn is so helpful in finding common ground before a networking chat, which is true. And she asks, can you say more about VTO? And
VTO is volunteer time off.
Oh.
There are companies that give somebody maybe 8 hours a year on company paid time to go be active in the community. We as interviewees, right, and networkers, we need to be asking the people that we are meeting with what drives them, what are they passionate about, what do they care about, and dig into how do they demonstrate that care and compassion. And it's not unusual for companies to provide volunteer time off.
I think those kind of things are becoming more common with organizations too.
I'm sorry, Harry, go ahead.
I was just saying, I think that's becoming more common with organizations too. It's a win-win. It's a win for the individual to be able to have the time and resources to be able to serve in some way. It's a win for the company. Obviously, it's a good look for the organization, but obviously it benefits the people that they go out and serve.
Yeah, and it's a response to changing demographics. I mean, the next generation of leaders are not going to stay in lockstep with an organization just out of loyalty. That is not. That's how it might have been when I was, started in my career. Loyalty to an institution or to an organization doesn't come through the paycheck. Engagement comes through being in a place where you're doing meaningful work with a purpose, leaders you admire, leaders you respect, and a mission that you align with. And, that gets demonstrated with things like providing employees opportunities to be more than just their job or their task.
Absolutely. Jeff, that was tremendous. I think, and what I've always known about you is you're a great relationship builder, and that pays off. Networking, I think when people look at it as only a means to get a job right now, and then they land in their next job and that's the end of their networking, it becomes difficult when they have to look for a job next time, but you miss out on those relationships and the benefits that you get from that. It's not just about knowing people, but I mean, it goes back to, I think of LinkedIn as it's a tremendous job search tool, but that's not what it was developed for. It was developed as a networking tool for people to be able to interact with other people in their industry, in their field, to be able to find help and resources of other for their careers. And it's a tremendous tool for that. But building long-term relationships benefits you over your lifetime, not just for the job search.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. You think about that. You think about that probe and the relationship before opportunity. Both Harry and Brian know that I don't accept LinkedIn invitations without context. So I basically don't say yes to anybody unless I understand the context already. They're a current client of mine or whatever. But if I get a LinkedIn invitation without context, I will respond back and I will say, hey, gosh, thanks for the invite. Tell me more. Why did you specifically reach out to me? And guess what? The majority of people never respond to that because they were just clicking buttons, trying to get their count up, or call on me to sell me solutions for helping me generate leads. If they don't respond without context, I don't accept. Relationship before opportunity.
Yeah. And so in that light, I encourage you guys to reach out to Jeff on LinkedIn, but put in a note with that invitation that you saw him here today, and maybe mention something that you gained or appreciated out of his presentation. I know it was worthwhile. Jeff, thanks so much. And so I want to have you guys stay on for just a few more minutes here. I want to make sure you're aware of all that we offer through Crossroads and to be able to take advantage of that. Let me share my screen. Whoops. I clicked on the wrong thing. Let's try this. And, welcome. There's pictures on here of people meeting in person, and I so prefer that and hope we can get to it. We did try getting back to in-person meetings in September and October of last year, and apparently people weren't quite ready yet. And so we're probably looking at sometime this spring, and I know that you're all specifically going to get jobs before then, but encourage you to let other people know about Crossroads and to join us as we do that, and to take advantage of the things in between. The last few weeks, we have had people watching our webinars. One was from Italy, one was from Singapore, from throughout the United States. And so I'm grateful if you're I'm grateful if you're in town, but if you're from out of town, grateful. I don't know how you found us, but I'm glad you did, and hope this is all worthwhile for you. If you are on this webinar and you haven't received one of these before yet, you will be getting a free gift. It'll be in the mail here in the next few days. And this is a great book of short essays and devotionals on how to think through your job search process and how to deal with all the roller coaster emotions that go on during this process. And so that will be coming. If you've been on one of our webinars before, I hope you've gotten that already. And this is why we have you put your mailing address in our registration when you sign up for these webinars. But I'm glad that we're able to share this with you, and I hope it's very worthwhile for you as you receive it. If you haven't been already, I assume you have, but spend some time on our website at mncrossroads.com, and you'll find a wealth of information, everything I'm going to talk about here shortly in terms of what's available to you, times and dates, and how to get plugged in. We also have a job board of companies that know what we do at Crossroads, want to hire great people, know that great people come to Crossroads, and so they list positions along with a contact name of who you can reach out to for questions or follow-up. And so check that out. We probably get, we're not monster.com, but we get multiple new postings each week, and I encourage you to keep your eyes on that and see if something appropriate comes up for you. When we do meet in person, we meet at 3 different groups around the Twin Cities area in Eden Prairie, Woodbury, and Arden Hills. And so we have 3 webinars per month in the meantime to represent for each location. But it's a way for you to find something that's going to be close to you at home and not have to drive all the way across town. And we have different topics at each location. So we have some people that go to each different location each month. And so that will be, as I say, resuming in the springtime. Whoops, flipped ahead too far. On a weekly basis, we have multiple ways you can get plugged in. Our Networking with Grace group meets at 9 o'clock every Thursday morning. And so they will be meeting here shortly in a few minutes. You can register online for that, but it's a way to share ideas, get new contacts, new ideas and companies that you may want to pursue. It's a group that is very supportive of each other. We have West Tang and West Roper, we call them West 1 and West 2, that lead that, and they make sure that everybody walks out with something each week. So if you haven't checked it out yet, really encourage you to do that. It's a great way to interact with other people and get some fresh information for your job search that can help you move along. We have one-on-one coaching available, and you can sign up online. Somebody will reach back out to you with to set up a phone call or a Zoom meeting, and you can talk through any aspect of your job search you'd like, whether it's to talk through your resume or practice for an interview that you've got coming up, to talk about networking or anything else that's on your mind. And sometimes I think people just need to have somebody that they can talk to that gets it. We have one of our volunteers for Crossroads that respond to you on that, and just to process where things are at for you, what you're trying to accomplish, what roadblocks you're hitting, and just to help talk through those things can be incredibly helpful. So take advantage of that as often as you'd like. The information is online for that. We also have prayer support and soul care that's available. We have you can find the details on the page on the website. But you know, this process can certainly be an emotional roller coaster. And so getting additional spiritual support and somebody that's praying for you or talking through the emotions that you're facing can be a tremendous help. We've got a team that is just dedicated to this and loves to help in those ways. So take advantage of that. The meat and potatoes and the most in-depth help you can get is through our online classes. For now, they're online. We're going to get back in person again in the spring. But it's an 8-week class that covers every aspect of a successful job search. We start with talking about attitude and your frame of mind and how you're approaching your job search and how you're coming across to people. We do some assessments so you can better articulate what makes you unique and what you bring to the table. We talk a lot about networking and targeting companies, and we go through best practices on resumes and tweak what you have. We talk about interviewing skills and what to expect and how to deal with different situations and negotiating and selecting, and there's so much more. And as important as the content is, and it's very strong, and we keep getting great response in terms of how helpful it was, I think equally important is that weekly light accountability and encouragement and moral support to help you get through this process. You know, it's easy from day to day sometimes to have those ups and downs, and to have at least once a week something you can get plugged in with where there's others that are in the same boat you are in, and to be able to get some encouragement and fresh ideas and put a new spring into your step for the next week can be tremendously helpful. And throughout the 8 weeks, we explore what's God's perspective of your job search in your life, because I think that has a tremendous amount to do with your attitude, but it also is a much bigger question as well that we discuss throughout the class. We have new classes beginning each month. Check the website for details for our next one, and you can sign up there, and encourage you to take advantage of that. By the way, everything I'm talking about is free. If you take the class, we do ask that you purchase the workbook that goes with it. But even if that's a challenge, let us know, because we don't want anybody to miss a class because of not having the resources available to purchase something. So we'll take care of that for you. Just let us know. Join our LinkedIn group. If you put MN Crossroads Career Network in the search box on LinkedIn, you'll find us. And we have well over 2,000 people in there that are all people that have been in Crossroads in the past and are working places now and willing to be networking contacts at those organizations. And so you can take advantage of that to be able to find people for companies you may be interested in. But there's a ton of information that gets posted there too, in terms of job openings, information of events coming up, just great job search resources. So join the group, take advantage of everything there, and you can use that as often as you'd like. As I mentioned earlier, our previous webinars are all posted on our YouTube channel. And again, on YouTube, you can just put in MN Crossroads Career Network to find us. And this one will be posted before the end of the day today, but you can see the previous ones as well. As we referred to, this webinar with Jeff today was the third in a series this month of 3 different perspectives on networking. So you can see Skip Nelson and Tom Calsimo talk about how they go about networking as well, and get some different perspectives to see what works best for you. But check out our YouTube channel for additional resources. Additionally, Thrivent has been just a tremendous partner for us. They have provided all kinds of resources and help for us. And one of the things they do on a monthly basis is 3 different webinars each month to help you through this process as well. Financial considerations during job transition. And they cover different aspects of that in each webinar. Check out the information on the website. I really encourage you to sign up for that and just get some perspective and help and ideas on how you can manage your budget and your resources and things that you maybe have to tap into. They'll give you some great advice and insight into all of that. So take advantage of that. And I just want to acknowledge we have actually over 40 volunteers that help with Crossroads in one way or another. And none of the things that we offer is because of 1 or 2 people. And so I'm grateful for all of them. They each bring expertise and experience to the table that is helpful to so many people. And so I'm grateful for the fact that we can do all the things we do because of people that get plugged in and help. And if you don't have a church home, I encourage you to visit one of our churches on a Sunday morning. As I mentioned, there's 3 churches that affiliate with Crossroads, and all of them are excellent. They have in-person services and streaming online, and you can find details at the respective websites shown here. But with that, I'm just glad that you were able to join us this morning. I hope it was worthwhile, and I hope to see you again, and hope you all get jobs here in the next few days. In any case, thanks for being here and have a great day.